All right, infrastructure was supposed to be the one area Democrats could agree. But after President Trump unveiled his long overdue plan to privatize air traffic control yesterday, the left, of course, already up in arms. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi saying Trump's ideas for privatizing air traffic control would hand control of one of our nation's most important public assets to special interests in big airlines. That's the talking point. She just squawked it like a parrot. And that was just day one of Trump's infrastructure week. Tomorrow he's going to be visiting Kentucky to address ways of improving levees, dams, and waterways that are crucial to agricultural exports like hemp. Joining me now is Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie, who is on that coveted Transportation Committee and the Waterways Subcommittee. He supports the president's focus on infrastructure, and he joins me once again from Washington, D.C. Welcome back, Congressman.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Kennedy. I hope you don't take away my libertarian card because I like infrastructure and roads.
A lot of people like roads, but a lot of liberty-minded politicos are excited about the idea of privatizing many aspects of our infrastructure. Is that what you like about it, and is that possible?
I think it's completely possible. They've done it in other countries. They've got better air traffic control than we do. It's certainly more modern in Canada and Australia where they've done this. In fact, we've already voted on this in the Transportation Committee in the last Congress, but they delayed bringing it to the floor for a vote because they felt the votes might not be there. Now, with the president behind privatization of the air traffic control function, it may in fact happen. Kennedy, I've got my own bill that I've introduced with the ranking Democrat. This is a transpartisan bill.
Very nice.
That would enable airports to raise their own revenues so they don't have to come hat in hand begging the federal government for grants. And this is something that Heritage is behind, a lot of conservative organizations, as well as liberal Democrats. And I've found a place where I can agree with them where we can give more control back to the local authorities. And maybe we can get that in the plan. And
what exactly does that do other than pass the non-savings along to the flying consumer? Is it because there's an artificial cap at $4.50 for every airline ticket? And will some airports just completely jack up the price to, like, I don't know, say $100, making flying untenable for middle and lower income earners?
Well, that's a good point, and that's a good question to raise. The cap is $4.50.
Yeah.
The airport can only charge you $4.50 for you to use their airport. Now, you can't run an airport on those kind of revenues. So there's actually a federal tax on the plane ticket as well that comes to Washington, D.C. Half of it gets lost here, and then the airports have to beg for that money back so that they can do projects they know they need to do. Now, in order to raise their cap in the bill that I've sponsored, they have to forego some of that grant money. And I think you'll see more competition among airports and among airlines, because right now the airports are captive of the airlines.
Of course they are. I mean, it's completely overregulated, and the free market doesn't have a chance. Now, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao has spoken about privatizing more airports. And why not go a step further and, you know, not only allow increase of the fee, but allow airports to operate privately, because the ones around New York, they suck.
Yeah, well, you know, the Democrat came to me and wanted to raise the cap from $4.50 to $8.50, and I said, I can't be for raising anything. I want to get rid of the cap and let them compete and make it more like the private market. So that's the way the airports could generate their revenue instead of coming to the government or being beholden to the airlines. So you'd see more competition between airlines because it would diminish their monopoly on air travel, and I think you'd see tickets go down, the price of tickets.
I hope so. That would be awesome. I want us to all be flying on completely green, solar-powered planes and first class with lie-flat beds and a cabin full of servants. Is that dreaming too big, Congressman?
I think it's dreaming way too big there, Kennedy.
All right, fair enough. Well, enjoy the president on his visit to Kentucky. Will you be joining him on the excursion tomorrow?
I have votes here tomorrow, and I take my obligation to vote very seriously. But he'll be talking about waterway infrastructure. We have 3 locks and dams in my congressional district. It's like a major superhighway. People don't think about our inland waterways, but those were our first superhighways that the founders had when they showed up. And so we've been improving them. It's a constitutional function. It's a federal function. And so I'm glad to see President Trump talking about it.
All right, then cut spending everywhere else, and we're in business. Congressman
Well, there's
Massie.
user fees. There's user fees for that too. So
There are fees for everything. We just get nickel and dime to death. All right. Well, best of luck with your legislation. Keep us posted. And thanks again for coming by.